Islamic State jihadists have raised their flag on a building in the Syrian city of Kobani. It's a strategic area right on the border with Turkey, which they've been trying to take for several weeks now. Street battles are now said to be taking place in areas within 2 kilometres of the city centre. Kurdish refugees have been fleeing across the border to Turkey, and some of them say Ankara is doing nothing to help.
Those who stayed in the area live in very poor conditions, and there's a drastic shortage of food. They have no choice but to flee. Turkish security forces get involved only to throw tear gas grenades to prevent us from gathering near Kobani.
We're eyewitnesses of the events. It seems like the whole world abandoned Kobani. If Kurdish forces don't get the supplies they need, there will be a mass slaughter of the Kurdish population in the city. Turkish security forces prevent us from providing help, but we will continue to try to help the Kurds. So far, we haven't seen any results from the US strikes against Islamic State.
And in Turkey's largest city, Istanbul, Kurdish protesters have clashed with security forces. Demonstrators hurled petrol bombs and launched fireworks at police cars. Turkey is home to millions of Kurds, and the government is under fire from the ethnic minority for not opening up the border with Syria to volunteers wanting to fight Islamic State. The terrorist group is reportedly trying to send undercover agents to Europe in the guise of refugees. Now, that is according to German media reports citing American intelligence. This year alone, tens of thousands of refugees from Syria and Iraq reached Europe, Italy and Greece. They are the main points of entry. Most then moved on to seek asylum in other European states, with Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Switzerland and Bulgaria among the top destinations. The EU is now planning tougher border checks to prevent extremists from coming in. RT's Polly Boyka has more on that.
Other EU countries, and they include Spain, Germany and France, they are going to push Brussels to restrict free movement rights within the European Union, and that would be by stepping up border controls. It's feared that some 3,000 jihadists that are currently fighting in Syria and Iraq have either EU passports or the right to travel freely within the EU. There's a sense that the politicians want to think about beefing up security, but at the same time they have to toe the line of not compromising the founding principles of the European Union. And it's not likely to be easy. There's likely to be opposition to it from opposition MEPs in Brussels. And, of course, Britain and other EU countries are now carrying out those airstrikes against the Islamic State over Iraq. They're considering expanding into Syria. And judging by this document, they're taking the threat of retaliatory attacks extremely seriously now. There are also concerns from leaks in the German media about how detailed these plans from the Islamic State are about committing acts of terror in Europe. We know from US intelligence they've allegedly managed to decode some conversations that have taken place between Islamic State leaders, and they were allegedly discussing plans to disguise Islamic fundamentalists as Syrian refugees and send them across the border into Turkey and then onto Europe with the sole purpose of committing acts of terror. And according to diplomats quoted in the press this morning, governments in Europe are absolutely terrified about that prospect.
Kurdish fighters in Syria say airstrikes are not helping to curb the advance of Islamic State. And many in the US agree the bombing campaign cannot defeat the jihadists for various reasons. Middle East expert Edmund Garib explains.
Most experts, whether they are on the left, on the right, military experts, don't believe that they could be defeated by airstrikes alone. The right wants, in the U.S. at least, wants to go to send U.S. forces on the ground into Iraq, and has been critical of the administration for not doing so. The progressive forces, however, would argue that force does not work. The use of force does not work, has not worked in the past, either in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and that it only serves to spread chaos and to strengthen extremism.
Our correspondent Paula Sleer is now in Iraq, near a major conflict zone. Follow her on Twitter for the latest updates on the battles now raging between Islamic State and Iraq's security forces.